Hey guys, TJ here from the Hyper Coliseum team. As you can see, I'm obviously not Ben. Ben's normally the one that does a lot of these deck discussions and deck profiles, but we've been trying to kind of get other people that are from our team get out there and do more deck profile stuff. And today I am here with D-Brigade. D-Brigade is really fun. There's a lot of really cool stuff that is like part of what it can do now. It's got so many different options available to it. It's very good going into the BT14 meta and beyond, because it gets even more support with just Digipolice stuff in general as we move forward. But yeah, so today we're gonna go ahead. I'm just gonna go over the deck a little bit. Go over my profile personally. We'll talk about some strengths and some keys things to it, and move on from there. Maybe a few other options you can run in the deck as well. So yeah, without any further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right into it. Okay, so to go ahead and just kind of start us off here, as you can see the whole profile right here. So for those people that are just wanting to stop into the video and see the profile, there you go. But for anyone else just wanting to go ahead and kind of go over everything, we'll go ahead and we'll start with the eggs. So I run 4 copies of the BT14 Missimon, who has 1 attacking once per turn by returning 3 cards with the D-Brigade or Digipolice trait from your trash to the top of the deck. This Digimon gets plus 2000 DP for the turn. Is definitely the best egg right now. You don't need the EX3 egg for reboot. The older egg is not very good at the end of the day at this point. And with the way the deck stands now, because you're having so many cards reveal and then like play something and then trash, you go through your deck very quickly. So having this guy helps you sort of manipulate the top of your deck, as well as giving you that extra DP boost you might need to climb over certain bodies, so you don't like meet DP, or you can beat over them. You usually will unfortunately fall just short against things like DeathX and Quartzmon and stuff like that, or other like burst mode cards. But it's still a very good egg, just for the fact of just keeping you from decking out. That's it for the egg, so just 4 copies of that. Next up, we run 4 copies of the brand new BT14 SR Commandramon, who has on play, reveal the top 5 cards of your deck, add 1 card with the D-Brigade or Digipolice trait among them to the hand, return the rest to the top or bottom of the deck. And then he has the inherited effect of all turns once per turn when this Digimon would leave the battle area other than by one of your effects. By deleting one of your other Digimon with the D-Brigade trait, prevent it from leaving. So something to keep in mind is that you can't delete things with Digipolice trait. It only deletes things with the D-Brigade trait in order to protect it. But that protection is any means of leaving play outside of your own effect. So that means by battle or by effect. It is a very good inheritable to have on your Brigadramon stack in order to keep him on board and keep his end of turn effect proccing, to keep everything having blocker, all that good stuff. And on top of that too, the search is very nice, and being able to manipulate what you're going to potentially like play out or reveal off of your level 5s or your level 6 is very helpful. Next up, we run 2 copies of the BT3 Commandramon, who's just a vanilla. He is mostly here just because when you're playing against a lot of other decks right now, a lot of decks run DeathX at the moment. And while when they make the DeathX play, they're probably going to clear your board, on future turns, if you reveal him, he will take the fall so that everything else with the lowest play cost doesn't die, because he's a 2 play cost instead of a 3 like most of the other Commandramons outside of the BT5 one. So he's very good for that. And then also like 3k DP is pretty good. It can help him sort of control board against other rookies if your opponent leaves something out there, if they play something suspended off of like being deleted, like a Flamemon, for example, or a Chumon if you're playing against a Sukapoop. And with the DP boost from the Missy, he can be a 5k DP guy, so he can swing over even some level 4s. But moving forward from him, not too much else there. We have the BT4 Commandramon, who is definitely the next best Commandramon in the deck, just behind the BT14 one, who has on deletion, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. You may play 1 Commandramon among them without paying its memory cost, then place the remaining cards at the bottom of your deck in any order. Just a great card for recursion. If they do have a lot of deletion effects, obviously if they're running like bounce stuff, that can be kind of painful, but if you're playing against somebody who has a lot of deletion abilities or like DP reduction, stuff like that, he will allow you to very easily just sort of start kind of like keeping a board presence if they are trying to wipe things off. And his effect paired with Cargo Dramon's Inheritable, which we'll get to later, can even allow you to actually increase your board size during your opponent's turn, or even during your turn. So very, very good card. Definitely one you run 4 of at the moment. Next up, we have 2 copies of the BT5 Blocker Commandramon. Initially, I was running the Structure Deck 5 Commandramon for a while, but upon sort of further review and playtesting, sometimes you lose your Brigadra. Sometimes they go through everything they can, and because the protections, and if you are only like a once per turn effect for the Commander Inheritable and the High Commander Inheritable, sometimes you still need that blocker, and he just kind of gives you that extra insurance to make sure you actually have a blocker on board. If they can't get rid of him by some other means, which, I mean, it's not hard to do with a rookie, but him also being a 4 play cost can kind of do the same thing like I was saying before with the 2-drop Commandramon, the BT3 one, where he will kind of help you kind of keep it where if you play him out and then play out like a 3-drop to keep yourself safe from a DeathX or something like that, or something that just deletes lowest play cost in general. But yeah, so he's still very good. And then the last card for the rookie lineup we're running is 2 copies of the EX3 Commandramon, who just has Decoy for D-Brigade traits. So, you know, when any one of your Digimon with D-Brigade would be deleted, you can delete him instead to keep that stack protected. So just, again, like extra protections for your like main stack that you have, because usually you're going to have like one Brigadramon stack and then just a bunch of other just kind of random shit on the board. But he's very good for just sort of helping you stay alive and whatnot, and he does come up more often than I thought he would initially. So it's good. He's a good card, definitely worth having in the deck. And that's it for our rookie lineup. Just running 14 rookies. Sorry. Nothing too crazy. Older D-Brigade definitely ran a little bit more, but because we have so much more high end now, it changes up a little bit. Moving on to level 4s, we run 3 copies of the new Numemon from BT14, who has on player 1 Digivolving by placing 1 Satsuki Tamahime from your hand as this Digimon's bottom Digivolution card. One of your Digimon gains Rush for the turn, and then has the Inheritable of Blocker. So he does have the Digipolice trait, which is very good. So he is playable off of certain effects of like Cargo Dramon and Brigadramon, and even High Commandramon as well. And he's very, very good for getting your Satsuki's on the board while also getting like a Digimon body on board to start kind of doing some checks. And sometimes he'll even win you game. If you like do all your swings and you're still sitting at plenty of memory, or at least 3 memory, obviously, you can play him, take a Satsuki from your hand and place it under him, and then be able to just start kind of going in and swinging. And possibly even just swing for game off of him. So good card. Definitely probably don't run it 4. I mean, you could, but I think 3 is pretty good. I wouldn't go any lower than 2, because you do want him for the free Satsuki plays out, because he definitely accelerates your plays. Next up, we run 4 copies of the brand new and first of his kind High Commandramon from BT14, who has when attacking, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. You may play 1 card with the D-Brigade or Digipolice trait and a play cost of 3 or less among them without paying the cost. Return the rest to the bottom of the deck. And then has the Inheritable of all turns once per turn when this Digimon would leave the battle area other than by one of your effects by deleting one of your other Digimon with the D-Brigade trait, prevent it from leaving. So same Inheritable as the BT14 Commandramon, but he's very good. And also as a note, he also has Rule, Name, also treated as Commandramon. So what this means is that he is playable off of Tankdramon's Inheritable. He is playable off of the BT4 Commandramon's on deletion effect, because he is also treated as a Commandramon in general. So he's he's a fantastic card. He's so good. Him also being a 4-drop makes him a very affordable play in case you do somehow miss a rookie on turn 1 and you find him. You can drop him for 4, and usually more often than not, you'll probably be pretty safe. But yeah, he's good. He also helps you wideboard. If you have like a Seals Dramon Inheritable in your stack and you get him played off of that and he gains Rush, it's really, really nice for just like keeping more of a board presence. But yeah, Let's play for him. And speaking of the Seals Dramon, we run 3 copies of the EX3 Seals Dramon, who has just his own effective jamming. And then also has your turn once per turn. When you play another Digimon with D-Brigade in its traits, it gains rush for the turn, and that's his inheritable. Really good card. There's definitely an argument to run like 4 of him and 2 of the Numemon, or even like 4 of him and then still run 3 Nume if you want to like cut from somewhere else. You can totally do that. But he on his own doesn't do much. He's mostly just a stepping stone because his inheritable is very good. But that's still more than enough reason to use him. He definitely will probably get phased out of the deck as we get some of these newer cards that are being revealed recently, in case you're keeping up with BT14 reveals and whatnot. But yeah, still a good card. Definitely the best like other level 4 for digivolving up into your Brigadramons. That's it for level 4s. Moving on to level 5s, we have 4 copies of Cargo Dramon, who has on player when digivolving, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, and then you may play 1 card with the D-Brigade or Digipolice trait, and a play cost of 4 or less among them without paying the cost. Trash the rest. And then he has the inheritable of all turns, once per turn. When one of your other Digimon is deleted, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. You may play 1 Commandramon among them without paying the cost. Trash the rest. And something I forgot to mention earlier, you can also play High Commandra as well off of this guy. So, because him and Tankdramon have sort of very similar inheritables. This one's when one's deleted. Tankdramon's when one of your other Digimon attacks. Or when one of your Digimon attacks in general, I believe. Which we'll get to in a second. But anyways, he's amazing. He's easily the best level 5 in the deck. He does so much work. There's been a couple of times now, actually more than a couple, where I have like just somehow managed to brick in my first hand and had him though, and just played him turn 1. And then I just snowball from there because I instantly wideboard off of him, and then I just keep wideboarding because they don't have an answer on their first turn. He is a very, very good card, and his inheritable is very nice. It works perfectly with Brigadramon. Cannot recommend him enough. So yeah, definitely a 4 of. I wouldn't run it any less. And then for our other level 5, we're running 3 copies of the EX3 Tankdramon, who has 1 Digivolving. Reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. You may play 1 Digimon card with the D-Brigade with D-Brigade in its traits, and a play cost of 5 or less among them without paying its cost. Trash the rest. Very, very good card. His inheritable as well is your turn once per turn. When one of your Digimon with D-Brigade in its traits attacks, reveal the top 2 cards of your deck. You may play 1 Commandramon among them without paying the cost. Trash the rest. So, and something to kind of know here too, I'm sure you guys are starting to see how much trashing we're doing with between inheritables, when digivolving effects, on play effects, etc. He's very, very good, and works very well with just everything else in the deck. He's definitely not as good as Brigadramon because you can't like on play to get his effect, but there's still plenty of merit to using him as you're at the level 5. But for the reason that he's not quite as good as Briga, we run him at 3 instead of 4 because we want to have some space in other places of the deck, and this deck can afford to run 7 level 5s and get away with it. It can be okay because it has so much search. So that's it for level 5s. Moving on to our level 6s. We run 4 of my new favorite boy, the true War Machine to War Greymon's Iron Man, Brigadramon, who has the effect of 1 Digivolving, delete up to 7 play costs total worth of your opponent's Digimon. So you can delete like a 3 play cost and a 4 play cost. You can delete 1 7 play cost. Yada yada. You choose within that number. He has opponent's turn. All of your Digimon with the D-Brigade trait gain blocker. So keep in mind he won't give it to Numemon, but everything else in the deck, outside of also DeathX, he will not give it to. But it makes it very, very hard for your opponent to do things because of how much wideboarding you're probably going to end up doing just on the way up to him. And then end of your turn, once per turn, you reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, and you may play up to 7 play costs total worth of cards with the D-Brigade or Digipolice trait among them without paying the costs. You trash the rest. Now, something to keep in mind that I had misspoken on before when we've talked about it in previous videos. You cannot play DCD Bomb. DCD Bomb does have the Digipolice trait, however, it doesn't have a play cost, it has a cost, like all options do. All options don't have play costs, they just have like costs. No play word there. So for that reason, it doesn't end up being playable off of this. Just something to keep in mind in case some people, because I've seen other people also think that as well, not just me. But yeah, it is so good for wideboarding because you can just play a cargo Dramon who can play other stuff, or you can play out multiple smaller bodies. It is a very, very powerful effect, and it makes it feel not terrible to pass turn when going into him. Just because you know that you're probably going to spit out some bodies that are all going to have blocker. And if you're like really early enough, you can just snowball from there. If you are behind, it feels good to kind of get that board presence out. It helps immensely. But yeah, definitely your main level 6 for the deck. Moving on from there, we have 2 copies of the BT4 Dart Dramon. He's an older card, but he's still very good. He has Rush, just in general. And then on play, return up to 5 Digimon cards with the D-Brigade or with D-Brigade in their types from your trash to the top of your deck in any order. And for each card you return this way, gain 2 memory. So he's a very, 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 very good card for just usually acting as a finisher. Most of the time is what he's going to do. Something to keep in mind is when you play him, you have to have at least 3 memory on your side because you're playing him for 13 and then on play you gain the memory back. So if they have memory blockers or something like that too, something also to keep in mind because you won't gain the memory back. So you'll just drop him for 13, give your opponent 10, and then call it a day. And if you don't have at least 3 memory, you by game rules cannot play him at all. But yeah, so sort of moving forward from there though, the next best thing for him really is that he also can act as a sort of cheaper means to go into a DeathX if you're really needing to for whatever reason. Depending on the deck you're playing, or the deck you're playing against rather, I should say, because some decks don't wideboard. So you know, rather than playing DeathX for like 17 or 14, like trying to find the memory to do that because you feel like you need DeathX to like get out on the board. I don't know why you would ever feel like in that situation, but in case you do, he can act as a cheaper way to do it because you can play him for 3 and then Evo into DeathX for 6. So it's a 9 cost memory play rather than being some other still awful number. It's still not great, but it is an option, something to think about, because it can come up. But yeah. And speaking of DeathX, moving on to him, we run 2 level 7 copies of, well, I don't know why I say that like that, but we run 2 copies of the level 7 DeathX Mon. He is just so good. I mean, ever since he came out of BT9, he's never going to be a bad card. As long as we have decks that want to play Tamers or want to wideboard, he's always going to be good. If you don't know what he does, he has just sort of a rule to him, which is when you would play this card, reduce its memory cost by 3 for each Digimon and Tamer your opponent has in play. So against decks like D-Brigade, like Fenrir Luga, like Cross, like Hunters, like a lot of decks, even certain stack decks because they play a lot of Cool Boys or a lot of the even like Greymon decks that play a lot of copies of the BT12 tie. He becomes a very, very cheap level 7 to drop on the board, who has on play or when digivolving, so you can choose how you want to do this. You'll digivolve all of your opponent's Digimon and then delete all of your opponent's Digimon, or delete all of your opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon. So he is very, very good for wiping boards. And while initially a lot of people were like, ban DeathX, restrict DeathX to 1, he is such a necessary evil because of how Digimon has designed their game, or Bandai has designed the Digimon card game. He's a very good card. I honestly think that almost every deck in this format should run him, at least at 1. Even decks that maybe can't Evo into him or it doesn't make any sense for him, just because of the D-Brigade and Fenrir matchup just alone, those 2 decks. He also works really well against ace cards as well, because he can digivolve them and gain memory back, so he can be even a cheaper play. And then on top of that too, you know, because that wasn't enough, he has end of opponent's turn once per turn. Delete all of your opponent's Digimon with the lowest play cost. So he presents this problem for your opponent, where as long as he sits out there, your opponent has to answer him, or they have to play around him. Otherwise, if they have their 1 stack that doesn't have protections, or they're scared about losing their protections on it because they have to like waste it Like they, if it's a War Greymon deck, for example, they have to shred 2 level 4s because this guy was on the board and they forgot to play something. That could put them at a deficit depending on the inheritables and stuff, right? Or they could lose the protection in general if they didn't have like a promo Alterous mode, something like that. So very, very good card. Does a lot of work. Being a 15k body and security too is also not bad. Sometimes a lot of things just crash and die into it. But yeah, that rounds out our Digimon lineup for the deck. Moving on from there, we'll move to options. The first option we'll go over is DCD Bomb, which is main, D-Digivolve one of your opponent's Digimon. Then, by returning 3 cards with the D-Brigade or Digipolice trait from your trash to the top of your deck, delete up to 6 play costs total worth of your opponent's Digimon. And then has the security just to activate the main effect. This card is so good. It's so good moving into this BT14 meta. Like with ace cards existing in general, this card is like the perfect counter to aces because almost every ace has a play cost of like 4 for level 5s or 6 for at least as of this time of our current meta. A lot of the level 6s we have, which is the Metal Guru ace and the Wargrey ace. Now, you won't see what Wargrey ace. This card is fantastic against Melga ace. But yeah, and even just the D-Digivolve as well can make it a 1-drop or free if you D-Digivolve an ace card. And even outside of ace stuff, it's just a decent option in general for controlling your opponent's board or, getting rid of certain pesky stacks if they pass turn as level 5 or they have a bunch of level 4s on board or level 3s. This can kind of help start cleaning it up. And on top of that too, it helps you cycle your deck more, or keep your deck from decking out and cycle things to the top of your deck to potentially play off your Brigadramon end of turn effect or other things. So it's a very good card. And it having D-Brigade in traits means that you can cycle it. You can cycle its other copies of it back into it. You can't you can't play it and then cycle itself back to the top. So just keep in mind in case you try and I know some people. Sometimes it gets a little confusing with the way Bandai translates things or the way certain understandings are on where a card is at after it's used. So something to just keep in mind. And then the other option we run is 4 copies of Defense Training. There's not much to say about the training cards outside of the fact that they are just so broken. They're so good. So you main, reveal the top 2 cards of your deck, add 1 black card among them to the hand, so any type of card, can be Tamer, Option, or a Digimon. Return the rest to the bottom of the deck in any order, then place this card in your battle area, and then has main, delay. You can use this, basically pop this card, or you can trash it to activate its effect, which is one of your Digimon may Digivolve into a black Digimon card in your hand for its Digivolution cost. When it would Digivolve by this effect, reduce the cost by 2. So keep in mind this doesn't work like from Master to Disciple, like the Jesmon option. When you use this option, you are chaining into an Evo. You can't pop 2 of these, then Evo for free, or you can't reduce the cost by 4 or something like that. That's not how it works. But even without it, you don't need it to work like that. It's so good. Making your Brigadramon a 2 cost, your Tankdra or your Cargodra a 1 cost, free level 4s, it's so strong. And the fact that it's a search that can grab any card in the deck, can grab anything you want in the deck, and isn't gonna over reveal to the point where you might bottom deck some stuff you need. It makes it very, very sort of controlled search that is very nice. And then security just places it in the battle area, so then you can activate the delay effect on the following turn, or when it comes back to your turn if it was just checked out of security during your opponent's turn right then and there. And then next up, we have 4 copies of Satsuki Tamahime. I've seen some decks run 3. That makes me scared because she's so vital to the deck, in my opinion. So I would definitely run her at 4, but, teach their own, however they want to do it. She has security, play this card without paying the cost, so the usual, that stuff. And then start of your main phase, if your opponent has a Digimon, gain 1 memory. And then she also has main Mind Link, which is the brand new keyword as of this set, where you can Mind Link with one of your Digimon with Numemon or Monzemon in its name, or the Digipolice trait. So keep in mind, funny enough, they designed her in a way where she honestly works better with the Shin Monzai and Bonzemon poop style of deck rather than the actual D-Brigade deck. But the Digipolice trait does save it, so a lot of times you're usually going to be in a Digipolice card. Like it might seem kind of scary because you can't like tuck her into your Dark Dramon, or you can't tuck her into your Tank Drop, but you can tuck her into plenty of other stuff. And there's ways to like structure your turn when you do want to mind link her, that you can make it work just fine. And then she has all turns. While this Digimon has Numemon or Monzemon in its name, or the Digipolice trait, it gains jamming and reboot, which is insane. And then end of all turns. So keep in mind, I believe this is our first end of all turns effect that we're getting with her, as well as AG, and the other mind link Tamers that we have coming up in general in future sets. You may play one Satsuki Tamahime from this Digimon's Digivolution cards without paying the cost. So basically that means that like once you tuck her, at the end of your turn, once you're done doing everything, you can basically just play her back out and just have her be sort of a relatively safe Tamer in the back, depending on the deck you're playing against. But yeah, she's so good. Very, very good for the deck. Definitely makes it so you don't have to like worry about checking like a big body with Brigadramon and security if you're like playing against someone who has like a bunch of DeathX in the deck and you're worried that you're gonna just crash into that 15k body even after the 2k boost from Missy and then just die because you don't have a protection under there. But yeah, she's cracked. Yeah, that does it for the lineup for the deck. Something to kind of note. This deck has a lot of strengths and weaknesses, right? So just like some of like, the big things with it is that, you get to utilize the new keyword mind link, which is very, very nice. Very, very useful. Very, very helpful. It's a very nice keyword. It's very cool. The deck has a very sort of neat way of wideboarding with the when digivolving and end of turn effects, or even like, things being deleted and whatnot to play out another body, off the top of the deck. It's very interesting. Being able to get a board full of blockers, utilizing powerful remove from play protections, and then DCD bomb is just such a good option. This deck, I think, is at the very least bottom of tier 1, maybe an argument for top of tier 1.5, depending on certain matchups. It can feel that way, but the deck is very good. I love it. It's definitely going to be my main deck next to Yellow Vaccine for this format, and moving forward I'll probably just keep playing it and updating it with the new pieces we get for the Digipolice stuff. It's just sort of, it has so much utility to it that it makes it very, very fun, and I personally like playing mid-range decks or decks that have a lot of control to them, and this definitely has that. And at the same time, like even with all that control, I'd say some of its strengths are the fact that it can be sort of fast-paced and high aggro, while still having those strong remove from play protections and defensive capabilities with giving everything blocker or just having blockers in the deck in general. The fact that you can wideboard faster than just about anybody else outside of Fenry is so good. It's so insane. And the option consistency also just feels super nice with the deck. Like both defense training and DCD bomb just work so well in the deck. Something to look out for though, something to note, some weaknesses for the deck. DeathX. DeathX is so scary for you. For just multiple reasons, because you don't want to lose too many bodies on board, and you make it very, very easy for them to have a very cheap DeathX play. And the bigger issue is that once DeathX hits the board, you pretty much are stuck in a situation where you just have to figure out how you're going to play around it, because you don't have a way to get rid of it. At least not with my version of the build. There is cards you could run to try and deal with DeathX, but I think that hurts your consistency. Realistically, the best way to deal with DeathX is that you DeathX them first. And then if they don't have a means of clearing it, when they end their turn, eventually, they might just... like, if they don't have another body on board, their DeathX might just die to your DeathX. So, something to keep in mind. Other sort of weakness to it, bouncing can be very, very rough for certain portions of the deck. As well as security tech minus. Because you don't have anything that lets you check multiple security. You don't have, some of your low end, if it gets bounced, it can feel really, really rough. Like Melga can kind of be a weird matchup for this deck. And something to kind of note, well, speaking of other decks that can kind of do stuff. Decks that can keep pace. Decks that can keep pace can be very, very sort of concerning to deal with. Usually those the decks I would say off the top of my head would probably be like Fenrir can keep pace very well. Speaking of Melga earlier, Melga, I played tested a bunch against Melga recently, and it's so fast. it's so fast, man. And then like Cross and Hunters both can be very, very quick and aggressive, although I think that this deck has very good ways of dealing with those decks, but they can sometimes just blow you out the water if you're too slow. The other weakness I would say for this deck would probably be things that are like just walls that won't go away. So like Black Gray X and Machine I think can be a bit scary. I think the Digivolution is very, very nice. Admittedly, it won't do much to Machine, but it can help against Black Gray X unless they're running the BT11 Metal Gray, which then you have to watch out for that. But a lot of times, ideally, you'll be able to wideboard so intensely that they don't have enough control to clean up everything. But it is something you do need to sort of just kind of keep an eye out for, because they can very, very easily kind of wall you off or have means of playing around you. Or like Hades Force, for example, in like a Black Gray X deck, could definitely hurt you a lot. But yeah, I think that wraps up pretty much just sort of strengths and weaknesses of this deck. Moving on to maybe some other options for the deck, other things you could choose to run. Like the one option is the ST5 Commandramon, like I mentioned earlier, who's just another vanilla rookie who's a 4-drop with 5k DP. He can be, 7k with a Missymon inheritable. Not too much to say about him there. He's just another option if you want to run just something that's like a bigger rookie. The Darkdramon from EX3, there's some merit to him. I don't think he's that good personally, because I think if you're digivolving into anything, you want to be digivolving into Brigadramon every time. But he definitely has some aggression that he can provide, and he works well with his own like EX3 cards in general. And he can be a free level 6 on the board as well, so he can definitely sort of do some interesting combos with stuff. Quartzmon, technically Quartz can digivolve over a black level 6, so you can go over your Brigadress, you can go over your Darkdress. Quartz is a very strong card. I'm not going to take too much time to go through all these cards, but I'll just sort of highlight them. You can hopefully read them in the video right here, or you can go and study them on your own. But I mean, it's Quartzmon, man. it's Quartzmon. It's a strong card. It has so much goodness to it, that it's something to consider. I know Rio, one of our other members of the Hyper Coliseum team, he runs Quartz in his D-Brigade build, and it's served him well. It's done good for him. As for options, there's so many good black option cards, so I kind of just listed a bunch here. Like DG Dimension, which is, gonna digivolve 3 of your opponent's Digimon, and then delete 3 of your opponent's Digimon with a play cost of 6 or less. It's very, very good for dealing with wide boards. Breath of the Gods is another fantastic card that can kind of just give you reboots, stop you from having your DP reduced or being bounced. And out of security, your opponent's Digimon can't attack like players for the turn, so they can still attack Digimon, but they can't attack you. They can't swing for game. Final Zubagon Punch is probably one of the best means of like getting rid of those big bodies if you want to pair it with your Brigadramon, because you can very easily sort of give it the plus 3k, go to 15, swing, Missymon inheritable, hit 17k, and when you're a 17k body, you'll gain the blocker, you'll gain the reboot, and you'll gain sec +1 until the end of your opponent's next turn. So it means you can be aggressive with this card. You can use it to deal with your opponent's bigger Digimon that have 15k or higher, depending if they're not too high. But it's a good option still. And even if it's checked in security, it'll add to the hand, so you'll have it to be able to kind of play around with. Iron Fisted Onslaught, just delete all of your opponent's Digimon with the highest play cost. Security just activates its main effect. It's a good option. It's just like probably the best deletion black option that we have, but it's very expensive. Same thing with DG Dimension. But it can be very good for certain situations. Congo's such just a good card in general. A 2 cost that just has main until the end of your opponent's turn. Your opponent's Digimon with a play costs of 7 or less can't attack players, and cards can't be added to security stacks by your opponent's effects. Very, very good against SecCon. I know in the recent video we just had where I was playing against Gabe at our locals at Sully's Abode, There was a comment suggesting Congo, which, you know, we went over, and there's merit to it. It is a good card, especially with Yellow Vaccine running around right now. That just, it can completely shut them out. And then last card, just as a Tamer, Izzy. Izzy would basically just be consistently a 3-drop memory setter Tamer that you could run in the deck. That can also stack the top of your deck to work with some of your abilities. But the fact that the deck space is already kind of tight and Satsuki just does so much more for the deck more often than not, it's hard to warrant him because you can't play him out for free by any means, so you're going to have to pay that 3 memory to play him out. Whereas Satsuki, you can play her out using Numamon and get added aggression to the actual combo. But yeah, those are just some other cards you could run. Overall, like I've said before, the deck is so fun. It's very, very enjoyable to play. I think it's fairly inexpensive. Like the DeathX mon is something that I would recommend, but you don't have to run this. You could very easily run Quartzmon in place of this and still probably do very well, because DeathX is still like, I think, $40 or so. Yeah, I mean, if this is correct right here, it's $42. but that's usually a little bit off. But I think it was like $40 or $48 last I looked. But otherwise, a lot of the cards in this are not super pricey at the moment, I believe, from what I understand. A lot of stuff is pretty easy to find. A lot of it's just commons and uncommons, which is nice. If you want to bling out the deck, then that can be a bit more expensive. But otherwise, you know, it offers a lot to this current meta. It has a very good matchup. It plays very well. There's so many players in our area that are playing it right now. And I think that just goes to show how like good the deck is, really, and how fun it is. Because it does feel nice to play. But yeah, I think that'll about do it. I want to thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for taking the time to sit here with me and kind of go over this as we discuss the deck and go over the profile. If you're someone who made it this far, if you're not, don't worry about it. I get you. Sometimes you just want to get in, look at the profile, and dip. Definitely going to be a lot of interesting stuff coming to the channel over the next few days. We have I think locals just went live or local videos that just went live today as of recording this. Definitely expect plenty of other profiles coming up. Thank you guys for watching. If you're not subscribed, please hit subscribe. It helps us. Nice. Like button as well. It's good for the old algorithm. If you haven't already done that. If you like the video. If you didn't, no biggie. Yeah, it's fun. It's cool. This has been really nice. We're definitely cooking a lot of stuff behind the scenes for you guys. There's a lot of fun video ideas we have that we've been playing around with. A lot of other, like, we've debated on doing a few other things that I won't spoil. We'll see if they actually come to light or not. But regardless of whether they do or not, there's gonna be loads of content on the channel. So definitely look forward to just what's to come next. All right, just have a good one. Bye.